I'd like to think that many of the people who go out there, when they actually see what life is like, I mean, we know that a lot of them don't like it. But if they're not given a chance to come back and become normal kind of citizens in society, if they're criminalised straight away, then all that's going to do is push people to the extreme, to keep them over there.
We need to get away from thinking that the only way to solve terrorism is through law and war. We need more than this.
If you're told that you can't go back to your country, your birth, where your family are, you think, well, I'm going to do something. What's the point? I'm not going to live, so I might as well do something and get over it.
We must maintain the moral high ground, and we must not overstep the level of human rights, even when dealing with counterterrorism and dealing with terrorists, because that undermines the work that counter-extremists can do. Because how can we hope to win back the hearts and minds of these people if we continue to oppress them?
There is this concern that they will come back to the UK, be battle-hardened, and be inclined to try and perhaps carry out attacks at home. Now, in this light, the British government saw fit to increase the threat level in the United Kingdom from substantial to severe.
And as we unfortunately saw 6 months ago, a French national, Mehdi Namouche, who had previously fought in Syria, moved into Belgium and then committed a horrendous attack in the Jewish Museum in Brussels. And we cannot let something like this happen again. And the way to do this is preventative work and de-radicalization work.
I think that touches on a much, much broader question, and that is that to what extent, when we are responding to terrorism, are we actually doing what those who commit these acts of terrorism want? In other words, giving them enormous global attention, giving them the airtime on TV, showing them that they have actually achieved the attention of the West, that they are a threat to the West. And I do take on board the point that sometimes when you do too much, you can actually make the problem worse. I think vigilance is the key as far as Portugal is concerned. Vigilance is the key, and I think doing things not so much in an open rhetorical way, but certainly, for example, I'd be surprised if intelligence agencies between the UK and the Portuguese weren't in touch about this particular threat.
If we start banning extremist speech, which is not terrorist but extremist, then we will only drive these people underground.
But then, you know, you're kind of finding people who are well educated, who are at college, who are trying to get careers as doctors. You know, it's not the kind of marginalised, dispossessed people. It's people who, you know, read a lot. So I think you know, it's a great concern that it's people who you wouldn't expect to get involved in kind of terrorism or violent kind of organisations.
Only the last step takes people from being radicalised and being extremist and being Islamist to being jihadist and then going to fight. So we need to do the first step, and we need to have more European collaboration to do that. There needs to be a common goal and a common purpose and a common strategy across all 28 EU member states.
But even those people being arrested now are just, in a way, the foot soldiers, the people who go to Syria who come back. No one is being arrested for kind of facilitating, and it is happening. There are, you know, you don't just jump on the plane to Turkey and somehow find yourself in Syria. You've got to know people get you across the border. More has to be done to break those networks, and it's an international problem, you know, one country alone. And I think finally, because of the internet, you know, you silence freedom of speech in one place and it pops up somewhere else. If you want to find this hate speech, you kind of can.
And of course, given that the Syrian conflict and the global state of jihadism is certainly at the forefront of 21st century technology, and it is all online, and there are no boundaries, there are no borders online. That means the solution also has to be online and has to be a global collaborative one.
The government uses the word vulnerable a lot when it talks to people who get radicalised, vulnerable to radicalisation, that they somehow need some help to get back on the right track. So you can go for that sort of rehabilitative approach, if you like, or or you can go down the sort of throw the book at them, criminal justice, and lock them up, or take them to court and trial. So, and of course, I think the kind of cases you describe, you know, you might be inclined to go down the former route.
You know, a lot more needs to happen in communities themselves, both to stop people joining these groups, but also to help give them a path out of it as well. Because otherwise there is only one path for them, and that's towards more and more extremism and more violence. So I think that it's going to be an issue for every country in Europe, Portugal included, but we have to be a little bit cleverer in how we deal with it.
And that we're working together to improve education, because that's a key way of countering extremism, to share de-radicalization tools, so that should these people return back from Syria, they can be engaged with in the prison systems. They can be de-radicalized, they can be rehabilitated, and they can be reintegrated into their home societies. People
are still going out to Syria. Whatever happens in IS, I think people will come back. And as long as there are those people like Anjem Choudary winding people up, exploiting people's kind of personal failings as well, you know, as long as that happens, you will get people carrying out acts of terrorism. And I think the other problem, and this is where our organisation does a lot of work as well, is that the actions of Anjem Choudary and, you know, the terrorists who follow him wind up people on the other side. So they give the excuse for racists and Islamophobes to say this is what Muslims are like, let's attack them, it's us v them, and it divides communities, and so people become, you know, more and more kind of polarised in society. So I think this is going to have an impact for many years for us.